The 25th Hour Radio Show. All right, welcome everyone to the 25th Hour Radio Show. I am your host, Rob Fairless. And today on the show, I have musician Freedom Williams joining me. What's up, Freedom? Thanks for being on the show.
I'm good, man. Thank you, Rob. So good, man.
You know, Freedom, I'd like to start off by getting to know you just a little bit better. I mean, everyone knows your music, but not everyone knows your story. So take us back a little bit and let us know what got you interested in pursuing music and performing in the first place.
Well, I mean, I started with CNC in 1991. At that time, I was probably around 24, 23. Well, I started making records up in 88. I was about 21. Then we made CNC in 91. But ever since I was 7, I played trombone for 3 years in school, played flute. 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, I was in the band, and then we're talking about, I started rapping probably around 1977, 78.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school in Hollis, Queens. Run DMC went to school in Hollis, Queens. LL Cool J was from Farmers, Hollis, Queens. Spider D, the real Sparky D, ABD, Russell Simmons, obviously the Rush Crew. So that whole area. Then I grew up, I was 11, 12 years old. I started rapping with the Albino Twins, Cambria Heights, Mathematical 5 from Laurelton. So it was always a part of, my life since I was a kid. So as long as I can remember, hip-hop has been in my life.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the majority of people on this planet, when they hear the name Freedom Williams, they immediately associate that with, getting their asses out on the dance floor, man. Is that the type of music that you've always wanted to do, or was that just the opportunity that was presented to you?
No, it just presented because I was a hip-hop head, but Robert and David were house remixers for CNC. We were doing Natalie Cole, Pink Kettle. I started as an engineer. I went to engineering school in 1987. Marley Marl went to engineering school. Albie Shaw went to the same school. It was called CMA on 23rd Street and 6th Avenue, Manhattan. And it was a 6-month intensive engineering course. And I came home from college. I went to engineering school. But I was really a hip-hop head, Rakim, KRS-One.
Oh, yeah.
Session Sonic, Chubb Rock, Public Enemy. But because I was working in the studio and I was engineering, I worked on The Butt by EU, Spike Lee song for his movie School Days, doing The Butt. I worked with Cameo. I worked with Larry Blackman from Cameo on A Single Life as an engineer. And so I went to engineering school. I worked with Kumo D on a disc record against LL. I worked with Donald D, Elise Simmons, her big record. I was very good friends with Jocelyn Brown, somebody else's guy. I dated her daughter for a while. Yeah. So I worked on a lot of records. I worked with Kool and the Gang. I used to hang out with Sly Stone as an engineer in my early 20s, but I was always a hip-hop head. But because Robert and David would house remixes, they would ask me to do raps on certain house remixes, and that's how it evolved. I was doing a rap for, a Paul Schaefer record, which you can Google online. It's a Paul Schaefer record, produced by CNC. And so, I produced with them Seduction. We created Seduction. We created the Brat Pack. So I was just making all types of records because, as a hip-hop artist, you go through records, jazz, R&B, blues, funk, country, rock and roll. That's our appetite. Any hip-hop DJ, Marley Marl, DJ Premier, Red Alert, Bambaataa, we had to play Billy Squire. Big, it was a good friend of mine. Or Cerrone, 4, or Nautilus by Bob James.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Bob James. So, that's rock. That's Run DMC's The Bells. So, our history as a hip hop artist. If you're a classical musician, you study classical music. If you're a jazz musician, you study jazz music. If you're an R&B singer in the church, you study gospel music. But if you're a hip hop artist, you study R&B, jazz, pop, blues, rock. You have to study everything. And so, I was a hip hop head, but because dance music was a part of hip hop, disco, Tavares, the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, we sampled that too. So dance music wasn't foreign. And remember, Heavy D had a reggae record on his album, a dance record on his album. Queen Latifah had a dance record. The Jungle Brothers said, "I'll house you." So making dance records to hip hop in the late '80s wasn't foreign to us. You know,
Yeah.
when Dr. Dre and NWA made that special self.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I got you on that.
A hip hop record. It was a funk blues R&B record, but it was acceptable to the hip hop community. So that's how I started, having an eclectic style, and that's how CNC came about.
Well, let's talk about the success you had real quick with CNC. All right. When you guys first started blowing up, how was you able to adapt to that change? I mean, was you able to adapt to it pretty easily? I mean, because at one point, I mean, outside of your own area, I mean, no one knew who Freedom Williams was, and then all of a sudden, you know, oh shit, it's Freedom Williams, man. I mean, that's a pretty big lifestyle change. Was it an easy adjustment for you?
It was, but I had a record on A&M called "Get Dumb" that Masters at Work with Lil Louis Vega and Kenny Dope. Kenny Dope discovered, you know, Anthony Hamilton, who's a great big R&B singer. Kenny Dope was a Spanish kid from Sunset Park in Brooklyn who has done house records. Remember the
Oh yeah, man. Of course.
Buckethead? Yeah. That's Kenny Dope. Kenny Dope produced the Bucketheads record. Kenny Dope and I did a record called "Get Dumb." And what we did is we took a groove from "Seduction," which was a David Cole remix, which was really Third World. Now that we found love. So we took that bass line, dum, 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 and I went "Get Dumb. Dum, 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 dum." Because back in the 80s, you know, it's fresh, it's dope. Yo, it's dumb. So "Get Dumb" was a term that we used. Yo, that's dumb, son. That's dumb. And so I said, "Get dumb, dumb, dum, 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 dum." So me and Kenny Dope in his basement produced this record called "Get Dumb" and put it out on A&M. Also had a record out in '88 or '87 on a record label called New Groove with a dope house group from East New York, Brooklyn called Total Science. And it was called "Rise to Freedom." It was an anti-apartheid record. So when the CNC record came out, by the time we did the first CNC record, "Gonna Make You Sweat," I had about 4 or 5 records under my belt already. So I was used to it, but obviously that was a huge record and took it over the top. So to a degree, I was prepared for it, but then to a degree, I wasn't because, you know, I was only 22, 23.
Yeah, man. And, you know, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers with you, man, but I have to ask this. You had so much success together with CNC. I mean, what broke it up? Was it them? Was it you? Was it a mutual thing?
I had, the only reason why CNC succeeded was because I understood Robin and David's energy. We had Seduction, they broke up. We had Rat Pack. Robin and David used to always fight. They were great producers as a team, but as personalities, they never really gelled. So by the time we got to CNC, I understood the formula. I said, okay, Rob's going to argue with David. David's going to argue with Robert. I got to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the CNC album was actually supposed to be my solo album. Somehow, between my solo album and the meeting at Sony, it became a CNC project. So after the CNC album, I didn't really want to do any group albums. I wanted to do a solo album, which I went ahead and did on Sony. So I was never supposed to be in a group.
Just so happened to ended up that way. I hear you.
It ended up that way. But so I was really done with it before it started.
I hear you, man. You know what? I dig your solo stuff, man. And just me personally, my favorite jam you've done, now this is me personally, is "The Voice of Freedom," man. I think that, yeah, man, there you go. And I think that video was outstanding, man.
That record's dope. It is dope.
I mean,
that record is classic.
Yeah, man, you get down on all your tracks, but to me, that's Freedom Williams 101 right there. I mean, and that being my favorite, how do you rank that tune as far as your musical catalog is concerned?
That might be one of my favorite records. I'm back with a new track. This ain't fiction, it's fact. I came to groove that'll make you want to move, that'll make you want to prove the moves are all bad. Dance and feel like I feel now. Yeah, that record was tight. I shot that in L.A., Cologo Park, with Zalman King. That record became a part of the Red Shoe Diaries, which is where Zalman King did his Red Shoe Diaries. David Duchovny was a Red Shoe Diaries. The whole X-Files came out of the Red Shoe Diaries. So me and David, the company, was hanging out. We shot that video. I was in the Red Shoe Diaries. From that, spawned the X Files. But yeah, that is one of my favorite records, man.
Yeah, man, you're bad to the bone on that.
Yeah, bad to the bone.
I can't say it like you, but I can relate to that little jam right there, man. I like that. I like that.
For real.
So man, you continue to put out music. You do charitable work. You own your own construction company on the side. I mean, do you still do the construction thing?
I do. I'm in negotiation now with a major network for a show. So yeah, I do a lot of construction, man. I've done bathrooms, kitchens. It's really, really, really what I ultimately want to do. Ultimately, as a creative force, because remember, construction is like music. It's colors, it's sounds, it's rhythm. It's just art. It's just like when I'm painting something, I'll even make a paint color. If I need a certain type of blue, I'll make it. So construction is definitely music. That's for sure.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, because I've seen this on YouTube, right? You did an interview with someone else, and do you just employ musicians? I mean, are you instilling your knowledge?
No, it just so happens that a lot of construction cats are frustrated musicians. Like a lot of studio engineers build the studios they own.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that a lot of, like my guy La Soul, he's a singer, he's a producer, he's dope taping, dope painter. Re-Up is now. I just taught Re-Up to do floors. It just so happens that way, man, that it's the same energy. Construction, you have record companies called Concrete Records, Foundation Records, so it's really, really, really synonymous with music, man. Construction is really, really, really synonymous with how you build a song as well you build a house structurally.
That's cool, man. When I check your social media out, as much as I can, I mean, you post a lot of what I consider thought-provoking status updates.
Absolutely.
And you really went into detail on Facebook on Christmas Day. I mean, you posted that for what is it, the last 30 years or so you've spent Christmas alone? Is that just a day you set back to reflect or what? Yeah.
Well, I spend Christmas alone, and I used to, I do a big party in February called the Aquarius Celebration, and I bought iced tea in after my second year. And I originally wanted to do it for free, but then we started charging. This year I'm doing the Aquarius Celebration, and it's going to be on February 11th at Stage 48 in Manhattan. Beautiful club, and it's just celebrating the age of Aquarius, because we're in the age of enlightenment and the age of information, and Aquarius is the information age. And so it's a winter time, it's a winter sign, it's a winter horoscope, and people are homeless in the winter. So being an Aquarius, we're loners. We Michael Jordan's Aquarius, Oprah Winfrey's Aquarius, Alicia Keys. We like to give back. And so we're always thinking about other people and how they feel. And I just get sad on Christmas, man, because I see the over-consumerism, the overabundance of I got to buy this gift. People are stomping on people. The day after Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is on Thursday. Black Friday, they stepping on people to buy a toy. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so it always it breaks my heart a little bit to see how people think on Christmas in terms of, and I have a lot of friends, man, like I think construction, like, yo, can I get paid a little earlier? Can I do? And I'm like, I've never bought, I have a son 30, graduated from Columbia University. My daughter's 15. I've never bought a Christmas gift. They just don't expect it from me because I tell them I buy you stuff all year. It just feels weird to me to go out and spend $700. Now I do toy drives. This year I did a toy drive at Lenora's, and a bunch of people bought toys in, and I do that for the children. But if I can give back, it's easier and feels better for me than to just go out and shop. And so the last 30 years I spent, 25 years, I just spent I take quiet time, I reflect. I think about what's going on in the world, all the stuff that's going on. Politicians are, they're spewing venom and hate, and I look at the Democrats, I look at the Republicans, and it's sad. We live in a sad state of affairs for those. For me, it's not sad because I understand it, and because I've been enlightened, I can see through it. But I feel sad for people who are not educated and people who can't see through the rhetoric. and they can't see through how. I mean, gas is $1.95. But I'm in Philadelphia. I'm driving down to Philly. Gas is $1.78. How come gas is $1.78 under Obama, but it was $4.50 under George Bush, and George Bush is in the gas business?
Mm-hmm.
If I own a baseball team, you should be able to pay less to come to my stadium than someone who doesn't own a baseball. So it's manipulation.
I'm not trying to get off the subject there or anything, but I want to continue talking about the charity that you do, man. You know, and it really impresses me about you that you do that. You know, in your own words, what makes it so important for someone in your position, you know, to give back to the community like you do?
Because we have to spread the knowledge and spread the wealth and spread the love. Education, when I was a kid, it was, go to college, stay in school. It sounds like a cliche, but you really have to educate yourself, because a lot of people from Jamaica or Trinidad or Panama, they leave those countries and they don't have education. And they come to America and they go to college. Almost every person I know from Grenada or St. Lucia or from Trinidad or from the Caribbean or even Africa, they go, oh, yeah, my father, man, he had 50 acres in Jamaica. Oh, my grandfather had 100 acres, and they take it for granted. And so they have this land that's undeveloped. They're selling it for $300 here, $700 an acre, and they come to America and they get educated and they realize, wow, I can go back and develop a school. You don't think about the development of your land if you're not educated. You're just thinking, okay, well, there's a tree there, but you don't think about, when you're educated, you start thinking about statistics. There are 30,000 homeless teenagers in New York City right now in 2015. 30,000.
That's 30,000 too many.
Think about that number. Not 200, not 3,000. There are 30,000 homeless teenagers. And one day I was walking down the block in Manhattan, maybe 10 years ago, and there was a sign on the telephone pole on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue right by the McDonald's. And it said right now there are about 27,000 homeless teens from the age of 8 to 17. And I stood and looked at this telephone pole for 30 minutes. I couldn't wrap my head around that number. And I said, I'm going to try to do something for people who are homeless, because it just was mind-boggling that in the city where you see Rolls-Royce and Mercedes-Benz, it wasn't homeless adults. It was homeless teenagers who don't have the knowledge to help themselves. And I said, homelessness and poverty is not about money. It's about education. So I started to work on the Aquarius celebration, and I started to work on, trying to do something for a concert. So that's what it drives me, because at the end of the day, when these people come from Jamaica, they realize, wow, now that I've come to NYU and I got this degree, I can go back home and I can open up a banana farm. But you wasn't thinking about that because you weren't educated in the statistics of the planet. All you know is, I'm in Jamaica, we got this 20 acres, nobody's doing nothing with it, it's okay. But then you get educated and you realize, wow, I can actually use this to help people. And that's the purpose of giving back. Education is the foundation for giving back.
Speaking of that, what do you got going on right now? You got any upcoming performances, projects, or anything like that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I do. I have the New Year's Eve show in Manhattan. I've obviously managed an artist named HansGable.com. He's got a record out called Drink to That, a record called TSA. I have an artist named Playboy Berg I'm working with. I just dropped a single on, Stump Universal. Called Never. So I'm always working on music. I just built a recording studio. Working with my man Speed out of Philly. He's producing. So I'm working with a lot of different cats, a lot of different music. Constantly staying creative. And again, like I said, construction is to me an extension of the music.
And man, before we start to wrap this up, is there anything you'd like to add that maybe I didn't touch on? Any website, social media shout outs, or anything you'd like to say to your fans? Anything of that nature?
Sure. It basically, man, just stay true to yourself. If you're a young person, listen to your heart, because your head will overthink. What's in your heart is what's important. You use your head to guide you, but you use your heart for direction.
That's deep,
and,
man.
Yeah, you go to freedomwilliams.com. You can go to FWE online, same thing. Freedom Williams at Facebook.
Now, I don't mean to interrupt you, man, but on the freedomwilliams.com, you got gear and stuff, right?
Well, I do. I shut it down. I'm actually rebuilding. It'll be back up in about a week. Because I decided to rebuild everything. But I will have gear up there, songs. Like I said, my Aquarius party's coming up February 11th at Stage 48 Manhattan. We go to Stage 48 and buy tickets. So, this is a good year, man. 2016, a lot of good stuff is happening.
Well, Freedom, not only am I the host of this show, but I'm a huge fan of your music and what you've been able to accomplish in your life. I want to thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much, man.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.